TalkErie and the Joel Natalie Show. We're live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State, also live on Facebook, on YouTube, and we're having the crucial conversations that Erie needs. And I want to welcome in here in the studio as well as on Zoom. We've got Elizabeth Cipolla. She is the co-founder and chief empowerment officer of Verdera, individual coaching, team dynamics, leadership development. We're going to talk about all the things. Hi, Elizabeth. Oh, how am I missing you here? Oh, I don't know. I somehow got you muted, unfortunately. Let's think this through here.
Okay.
There you go. You're back.
Okay, I'm back. Good.
Okay, good. All right. Good to have you on. And we have Amanda Kochirka. Pretty close.
Kochirka.
Kochirka. Amanda, welcome. You are the co-founder, chief orchestration officers. We're going to need you to do a little directing here, I think.
I can do that.
Natalie is like all over the place today. All right. All right, let's get some origin stories. We'll start with you, Elizabeth. How did you come up? Did you grow up in the region? Are you from Western New York? Tell us a little bit about coming up and getting involved in this line of work.
So I actually am from the Buffalo, New York region, and I live in Western New York. In fact, that's where I'm joining you from. Amanda and we met about 7 years ago, so I'm sure we might get to that. Our paths crossed professionally where we used to work together, so we really hit it off well before deciding to launch this. But in terms of how I got started, I'd say the best training I had for the work I do, this is a good teaser, is growing up in a pretty chaotic upbringing as the youngest of 7 children. So that is probably the best training I had.
Yeah.
But I worked in corporate America for about 20 years before deciding to, in various executive roles, everything from a small family-owned business of a few hundred employees and all the way up to being in executive roles overseeing the HR and people development function for large global publicly traded entities. So that's a little bit about my upbringing.
Wow. And what I got to ask, what was the trigger for you to kind of bounce and say, I'm going to do this myself?
I would say, great question. I would say I am a born entrepreneur. Honestly, I am someone who's always very much enjoyed questioning things, but not in an obscene way, just in a way of trying to figure out and deconstruct how things work. And the machine that I've always been most interested in is the machine and the thing that goes into what makes people behave the way they do, and how can we use that information to help them look at things through a different lens. And then I wonder what type of an impact that could have on relationships, on organizations, just on their general well-being. So that is, I would say, how I got into it.
All righty, let's go to you, Amanda. Tell us about your origin story.
Yes, so I'm from Meadville originally. Moved here to Erie to go to college. I went to Gannon in 2005, fell in love with the community and never wanted to leave. So here I am 21-ish years later and loving the community. Spent a lot of time prior to going out with Verdera in economic development. So spent some time at the Erie Regional Chamber, at the Small Business Development Center, the nonprofit partnership. So I've always had a soft spot for helping organizations become the best they possibly can be. And I think that comes from my time, life really, as the daughter of a small business owner. My dad started a small business in Meadville in the late 70s, still running today. And through my time working with him, I really got to see behind the scenes of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So I developed a real soft spot in my heart for helping, especially entrepreneurs and, small organizations really achieve the best they possibly can.
Would you say that that your focus of your practice with Verdera is small business and entrepreneurs, or sometimes the big guys need some help,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Nope, that's not our focus. It's part of who we serve, but we work with organizations of any size, any industry. And the reason that the work that we do is not industry specific is because everything, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit deeper, but everything that we do is behavioral based. And so human behavior is applicable across any industry, any size organization. It's applicable anywhere, anytime.
All right, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here for a second,
go for
like
it.
that. So Elizabeth, talk about to the crusty business owner that says, "What are you talking about behavioral based? I just need people to show up to work on time and pass a clean drug test and get listen to me and get my stuff done." What are your thoughts about that?
Sure. My thoughts about that are very much everything is what that person would be referring to is results. At the end of the day, they just want results. And what I always like to say is, okay, I love it. Let's figure out what patterns might be lying underneath the surface that have trained people to behave differently than what it is you need them to do, so that we can figure out those patterns, break those cycles, and then get people behaving, producing, whatever it may be, living their existence in your business in a way that helps them to be more productive, helps your bottom line, and at the end of the day, helps people to work together much more effectively.
Weigh in a little bit on this, Amanda, too.
I think for a long time, the way that the workforce was approached was from the perspective of there's a transaction, right? It's I, as an employer, provide you with benefits and a salary and a stable job, and you, as an employee, provide me with your loyalty. And over time, that contract has changed. And so we're now seeing a lot more conversations about recognizing that your employees are whole humans. They can't just check their lives at the door. As much as you might want them to. That's not realistic. We're all whole humans. We bring the stress from home into work. We bring the stress from work into home. And so in order to really get the most out of the people on your team, the best way to do that is to recognize that they are a whole human and work to understand the behavioral patterns that are driving what you're seeing at work.
That's pretty interesting. Do you think that recognition or lack thereof, or maybe just unwillingness to go deeper because of the tyranny of the urgent for a CEO or for a manager, is that a generational thing?
We love the generational topic because Elizabeth and I are actually very much of the mindset that the generational piece doesn't factor into the equation. What it boils down to is human behavior. I think we're talking about this at a conference this morning. Generational, I'm going to call it stereotyping because that's what it is. Generational stereotypes. It's the most socially accepted form of stereotyping, right? You think
I hear it every day.
You do. We all hear it. And it's become a sort of social currency in a way. It's like, oh, the boomers are banding together to be upset about the millennials, and the Gen Z can't stand millennials, and everybody's mad at millennials. I don't know.
Right.
But ultimately, it boils down to, we all know 25-year-olds who are incredibly motivated and driven and hardworking. We know 65-year-olds who are really checked out and quote unquote don't want to work anymore. We also hate that phrase, by the way.
Right.
So those types of behaviors are applicable across any human. And so to group somebody into a generational stereotype just because of the year that they were born, it's lazy leadership, frankly. You're overlooking what makes that individual person tick, because it takes curiosity, not judgment, curiosity to get to the heart of what's behind the behaviors that you're seeing.
Why do you think, Elizabeth, that is it the lazy leadership? Is it that I don't want to have to figure out communication channels and communication tactics to cross a generational divide? Is that what we're talking about here, from the older to the younger, and maybe some of the vice versa?
Oh, yes. I would definitely say we see it all the time coming from every which way of generation, whether it be older to younger, younger to older. We see it all of the time. And yes, absolutely. I would say it is two things, both lazy as well as avoidant
Mhm.
leadership behavior. Because basically then what they're saying is anyone who would say what you just did is I don't want to have to be bothered with it. I want someone else to figure it out. Said
Mm-hmm.
differently, I don't want to have any accountability with this. Figure it out.
Yeah.
That isn't how the world works. I wish it was how the world works, but what we're really talking about are relationships. So is we love to work with leaders, business owners, individuals who own the fact that they bring something into an equal part into whatever relationship it is that they have, whether it be employer to employee, and they are open to being curious about what they can do to understand the deeper patterns shaping how they show up as leaders so that then they can influence that very thing that they can control and therefore impact. It's truly a ripple effect to impact and
Mhm.
create the type of culture that they want to create to produce the results that they need.
Yeah, it seems to me that it's a situation where, um, the people that are going to reach out to the wonderful people at Verdera is they're already in the top 20% of trying to pursue best practices, trying to have a world class organization. That doesn't sound like the guy that's just trying to maintain his bass boat and his $10 million a year shop, and there's no growth because he doesn't care. Or she.
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be sexist about this, but
Right.
generally, it's good. There's too. There are frankly a lot of stereotypes all over the place, aren't there?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
And I think there's also some responsibility on the side of the leaders that came before these generations and generations to come in providing leadership training. Leadership training across the board is largely very skill based. It's here's how to have a difficult conversation, here's how to run a meeting, here's how to set strategic goals, but it doesn't actually teach. Yeah, it's very transactional. It doesn't teach people how to lead people, how to lead humans.
Yeah.
That involves getting curious, having conversations. That's not tactical. That's really diving deep and spending the time getting to know somebody, which doesn't come naturally to everybody.
Let's hold that thought here, and I want to go to our break. We're talking to Elizabeth and Amanda from Verdera. You guys, you're challenging me today, but I'm. It's all good here. It's TalkErie and the Joel Natalie Show. 420. Stay with us. TalkErie and the Joel Natalie Show. We're talking about business and your culture, and that is with our friends Elizabeth and Amanda from Verdera, individual coaching. And well, let's not glom off of that just yet. Elizabeth, talk about some of the individual work that you guys do, because I think sometimes it might be just that middle manager that says, how do I get to my next level? And they might want to talk to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I would say a good way to succinctly convey what we do, because yes, we work with groups and we also work with individuals. In fact, I'd say half the work we do is with individuals. And of that, half of the individuals who come to us independent of their employer. Said differently, people who just want to get unstuck, whether it be unstuck because they want to figure out, to your example, Joe, their next career move.
Yeah.
Maybe it's unstuck because they're transitioning from one significant chapter of their lives to another. So perhaps they have just sold a business, or they've just retired, or their children have all just moved out, and now they're empty nesters and they want to figure out who they are and what they want this next chapter of their lives to look like. So Joel, it's anything like that that really people could come to us about, or if people have been carrying a lot of things that have been holding them back from truly stepping into their full authentic existence and being able to experience joy, we help them get unstuck from that as well.
There's a lot of counseling that goes with coaching, is there not?
Yes, there
I
is.
would say what we always like to say is we definitely aren't counselors. I promise you
Right.
that.
Therapists, yeah.
In,
Not
in
what we
fact,
do.
we often work with people in a coaching capacity who also are in traditional talk therapy. You don't have to be, but they are very complementary if that's the case. What I would say is coaching helps people to think differently. So anytime if you work with a coach who's really, really good at what they do, it should have the person walking away thinking, wow, I've never looked at it that way before. But not only I've never looked at it that way before, now what? So they have simple tools and simple things that are repeatable that they can immediately apply to get them progressively a little bit more clarity.
You want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think it's it's really a matter of bringing awareness to behavior. And we always like to say that when we bring awareness to the behavior, awareness creates choice, because when you are aware of how you're showing up, you can make the choice to show up differently and behave differently. And so that choice enables change. So awareness creates choice, choice enables change.
All right, I'm going to throw another hardball at you, ladies, and that is, I get reports about, people that are not typally in lead roles, and so maybe it is a woman or a minority, and they're in, they're in a leadership role. They're at the table, but the table may not be the most functional context. What would be some advice for someone to be heard? And then I'm going to follow up with something else. But why don't you start, Amanda?
Sure. So I think one of the things, and interestingly, we're having a conversation with someone recently about this, how and this is a completely different conversation, but there is so much inherent in our work systems that were not built for women and minorities. So there are issues within the system, structural system, yes, that are not conducive to women and minorities and how they live, how they work, and the issues that they experience that are unique to them. So I'll preface this by saying that. I also think that it all again comes back to behavior and the desire to get to know the people on your team. As a leader, getting to know the people at the table is incredibly important, because if you understand, and this is regardless of whether it's a woman, a minority, a man, doesn't matter. If you understand that this person at the table has a behavioral hardwiring that makes them not going to be the first one to raise their hand and give their opinion, you need to provide, as the leader, opportunities for them to be heard. So it's about understanding the individuals around the table and what their tendencies are and aren't, so you can create an environment that's conducive to getting the best out of everybody.
Weigh in there, Elizabeth. I got about 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I would say that a necessary ingredient is remembering that the one need every human being has, no matter what group or minority group or majority group you belong to, is that human need for connection. So even if you don't take anything else away from this segment that you are doing with us right now, it's this. Ask yourself, what is it that I could do to help this person feel a sense of connection? And if you're the leader, that is a very important question to ask yourself, answer, and then choose how the type of introduction you do of them to a group, the way that you assimilate them onto your team. But it's never too late to choose differently. Even if you've never quite known how to handle it before, never too late to choose differently. And that's one easy question to ask yourself as a leader.
It is tough, though. I mean, sometimes you know that you're going to call in that person and you're going to, and again, this has nothing to do with being a minority or woman or whatever, but you're going to call in that person and it's going to be either a difficult answer or maybe something that is not well informed. I mean, group dynamics are dicey to say the least, you know.
Yeah, and that's why it's even more important to spend the time. And this is something that, again, it's not taught. It's rarely ever modeled.
Yeah.
Where you understand the individuals that are seated around that table or that are on that team to be able to talk with them and work with them more effectively.
And need a little bit more understanding. We're talking to our friends from Verdera. It's TalkErie and the Joel Natalie Show. TalkErie and the Joel Natalie Show, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here. And we're also live on YouTube and Facebook. Very interesting conversation that we're having with our friends from Verdera. They are doing coaching. They're helpful for convening and building culture. Elizabeth Cipolla, right? She is the. I'm sorry.
Cipolla. So you did a good job.
Okay, cool. Amanda. Oh gosh.
Kochirka.
Kochirka. All right.
It's Ukrainian.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, welcome both ladies. And I want to jump back in because I think we can go 2 hours on this thing, but we've got about less than 20 minutes. So let's get right to. I'm trying to maybe do a little empathy for that person that maybe feels lost in their current context. Heck, they could be on the line at a plastics plant in West County, or they could be a vice president, but is hitting a ceiling, glass or otherwise, to really meet their goals. And what I've seen happen in my 40-year career is that it is easy for an employee to be, quote, pegged. They're pegged a certain way. They're going to have a certain reaction, or their work ethic is a certain way, and they just basically, oftentimes, they're always substantiating what you've pegged them as. And the worst thing that can happen is when you're pegged, when you are kind of meeting an expectation, and it ain't good. So, Elizabeth, you said you'd like to chat in on this.
You wouldn't believe the number of individuals or leaders that I've met with and worked with privately to help them navigate this, being on either end of that pegging, as you say. And here's what I would say. 99.9% of the time, a leader's not going to wake up one day and then just randomly decide someone on their team, the person that's pegged, let's say, isn't good enough. What happens is they start collecting data and they're not even realizing it. So what happens is every interaction becomes another piece of data, another piece of evidence that either builds or erodes confidence. And if you think about it, you break down any interaction or relationship, that's what happens with all of us. So let's say you're the person, you're the leader who has pegged someone and you kind of catch yourself doing that. Well, one of the reasons would be because you are mistaking behavior for capability. Said differently, we talked about this earlier today, didn't we, Amanda, with the group that we were working with. Someone who's quiet, who is on the team and doesn't say a lot, that could be misperceived as disinterested. Someone who is really, really detailed or methodical, they could be perceived as a roadblock or a barrier or too slow or not as intelligent or quick to catch on or change resistant. So what happens is, just as human beings, and now I'm helping the listeners to understand human behavior, once we form an opinion about someone, our brains naturally look for evidence that confirms it. So even if your first impression about somebody is completely off base, what's going to happen is, as humans, we're going to unintentionally notice every mistake while overlooking anything that's positive, right? So I would say, if you are on the receiving end of being pegged, because I don't know about the rest of your listeners or either of the two of you, Joel and Amanda, but I've been pegged before, right? It's not a lost cause. It's not a lost case. There are things you can do to be in more control than you think you are if you feel you've been pegged.
What would you do? What would be an action? Does it take that person to really go outside their comfort zone or even do something outrageous to kind of change a perception?
We love a grand gesture, but no. There are easier steps. So one of the things that we talk about a lot with clients is the power of the question, why? So understanding when you're thinking about someone on your team that you typically tend to put in a particular bucket, as you're doing that, and this does require kind of catching yourself in the moment and realizing that, oh, hey, I'm making an assumption about the way that this person's going to respond.
A leader needs to be a leader. Lead well.
Yes.
Yeah, if you really want to advance. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you have to stop and ask yourself, why? Why am I putting that person in that bucket? Why might that person be responding that way? Why do I think the response is what I'm seeing, and what might be underneath that, really? And just stopping. There's a lot of power in getting curious. Our brains, to Elizabeth's point, what she just described, our brains are apt in that situation to take the shortcut. If we're giving it a shortcut, it's going to take it. So, and a lot of times that shortcut is based in judgment, not curiosity, right? So it's a matter of taking the time to get curious and ask some deeper questions as to, why am I seeing the behavior that I'm seeing? Why am I interpreting it that way? And what do I need to do as far as having a conversation with this person to really get to the root of where this behavior is coming from?
All right, I want to spend some time in talking about some of the other things that you do. So let's start with you, Amanda.
Yeah.
Chief Orchestration Officer.
Yes.
So what's that all about?
So I think the most concise way to explain this is that I was once nicknamed by a client a Planda. That's the nickname that he gave. I can't even, that's true story.
So you like plans?
I do, yes.
Is there something wrong with that?
Love a plan, love structure. I do have a fear of change if that change isn't clearly expressed as to why the change needs to happen. That's something that I own about myself. But that the role that I play with Verdera is working with groups. So I do a lot of co-facilitation with Elizabeth. We love working with groups and helping them understand how each individual person on the team ticks and what that creates as a group dynamic, a team dynamic when everybody comes together, and how to navigate the strong suit of the group and make sure that that stays a strength. And then also look at the areas where there may be some friction and how do we work through those. So that's one side. And then the other side where the orchestration piece really comes in is that I am running the operations of the business. Okay. So making sure that we're, keeping everything on the up and up and
keeping the trains running. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome.
All the good things.
Okay. So Elizabeth, you are the Chief Empowerment Officer. So are you just kind of, you're good enough, you're strong enough, and by golly, people like you, right?
Yeah, that's definitely not what I would say I do. So what I do is, my job is to not only be, I'd say, more of the visionary of the business. Would you not agree, Amanda?
Yes.
But actually developing, refining service offerings, and being the one that is at the forefront of identifying opportunities and then seizing those opportunities and growing our business in that way. Whereas as a coach, so that's who I am to the business. Yeah. But as a coach, and in the way I work with people, it's to push them further than they think they can go, and to support and empower them more than they would expect. So if someone is looking for a rah-rah cheerleader who's going to just pump them up and not hold them accountable to results week after week or time after time that we work together, they probably wouldn't be the type of client who would enjoy doing work with me or with Amanda or our organization for that matter.
All right. Here's another hardball. I'm gonna, and I don't mean this to be political. I want to talk more about the community's self-image, and so there's a lot of chatting going on around Erie about who we are and our self-image, and a lot of this comes down to just super negative evaluations of our political system, of the people at City Hall or County Courthouse or whatever.
Sure.
And if Erie in the collective was a client, and it just has way too much negative self-talk. Can we, and you'd agree, man?
I would, yes.
Can we talk? I'm going to have Elizabeth start because she's the Buffalonian. A Buffalo sometimes has tough self-talk too, right? So let's talk about how what you would say to a collective sourpuss, Eeyore. I mean, I'm looking at all these characters that Erie could be representing. What do you think, Elizabeth?
So I would say first, let's slow it down and let's separate facts from assumptions. What is the actual situation of Erie, not the story that your brain is creating about it, and ask what feels the most difficult about Erie's current state, because you're wanting me to keep it centered around Erie.
Sure.
So once you can do that, then what you can do is help to, I guess, glean from that. Okay, so the facts of the situation, the facts of how our city is perceived, the facts of what it is we're feeling. What are we as Erieites making this mean about us, and what is that fear underneath that?
Fear? Wait, whoa. What are we fearing here? Is that where this is coming from?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we are afraid of something, then we look for evidence to support that story. It all goes back to that fundamental human behavior nugget that I said several minutes ago. Our brains, whether it has to do with our city, whether it has to do with our community, whether it has to do with our national government, our personal relationships, our work behavior, we are always looking for patterns, because as human beings, we are looking to create safety and predictability so that we feel prepared. We don't like to feel out of control. So yes, it is based on fear, and it's tough a lot of times because we don't know how to be curious without judgment, and instead we fall into confirmation bias.
Amanda, one of the toughest things I find just sitting in this chair is that I could say 15 things that are really cool things that are happening in Erie, and it just is like I'm talking to a wall to some people, not most people. I think it's actually a minority, but it's a vocal minority, and it's a keyboard warrior minority here. I want you to weigh in on this whole thing, Erie's self-image and this so on.
Yeah, I think I'll echo what Elizabeth said with fear. It comes from, and speaking as someone who does, by behavioral hardwiring, fear change, I understand where that mentality comes from. It's basic human instinct to want to protect our safety, and our safety can feel threatened by a variety of different things. So a lot of times, and I think this is where the conversations that happen in the community are really important, to shift the perspective from the folks who are doing the communicating to understanding, what is the fear here? Where is the fear coming from? And that's tough when you've got somebody that's coming at you with really strong opinions and, naysaying what you're trying to accomplish. But again, taking the time to get curious and ask some questions and start to understand the fear that's underneath it, and what is the change that's occurring, and how is that going to impact this person or this group. If you are working from a place of understanding, really understanding, again, not making assumptions, having the conversations to really understand that, that's a step in the right direction to moving forward. And I think we're also, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't remember who sings it. Is it Gin Blossoms? If you don't expect too much from me, you might not be let down. I can't remember. but literally, when a community like Erie, and at times Buffalo's been the same way, when you constantly are self-deprecating and talk down about yourself in a negative way, what it is, it's a form of self-protection. So if we as Erieites or we as Buffalonians, whatever, as people, if we are expecting disappointment, then we can't be disappointed. And then what happens is that mindset becomes a narrative and literally a part of the community's identity.
What's so sad for me, though, is that they're missing out. Like, by opening your eyes and saying, you know what, they raised $18 million and they built a world-class children's museum that's right around the corner that I could bring my grandkids to. And when Papa goes with the kids, it's like epic. And like, this is an amazing experience in my hometown. Or, going to the beach tonight to see Shaney play. Like, I can't believe that it's 15 minutes away and it's free. This, if I were in Jersey, I'd be paying for parking and a fee to get on the state park. I mean, that's not Erie. And so, like, I feel like it's a Wonderful Life or White Christmas. Count your blessings, name them one by one. We need to do that in here. All right, I got to pivot before we're done here. And you were talking about group dynamics, and are we not using the tools that are available to us, the Myers-Briggs, the understanding of people's personalities? And again, I'm a big flag waver of the Strengths Finders tool, of knowing the strengths of the people in your organization. Elizabeth, weigh in on that.
Sure. Instruments like that are amazing. We love them. We've used lots and lots of different instruments. We ourselves, and after doing this for almost 27 years now, personally, I really like Predictive Index. I do like Myers-Briggs. Yes, I do like DISC. Enneagram is another one, Strengths Finder. There are lots and lots of them. What I would say, however, those aren't always easily accessible for people. So if you can drill it down to the core elements of what these instruments really show you, it can help you to be able to better self-recognize different behaviors to look for first within yourself, so that then you kind of have a baseline of what you're looking for in others. But no matter what the instrument is, it all comes down to human behavior.
Yeah.
I would just add that a lot of training that's built around those tools stops at awareness. So it's everybody completes the assessment, we get everybody's results, we come together, we do some exercises that help us learn what Myers-Briggs type everyone in the room is. And then we call it a successful team building training. And the problem with that is you've now highlighted how everyone in the room is the same and different, but you've not talked about what to do with that information. So, okay, what are the dynamics that those similarities and differences create? What are the gaps that those leave us as a team? Where are we falling short in difference of perspective? How do we figure out how to work together more effectively with this knowledge of how similar or how different we are? That's the part that usually doesn't happen. And that's the part that Elizabeth and I specialize in is, okay, great. We'll talk about how we're similar and how we're different, but ultimately, how does that impact the team and then subsequently impact the work?
Final words, folks. Yeah, go ahead.
And what to do about it. Final words, I guess, here's what I would say. And this is something that would be helpful to Erieites. It would be helpful to individuals. I would say, become aware of the story that you're repeating, whether it be repeating in your own mind about yourself, about your future, about Erie, verbally outward to the community, and ask yourself whether that story is helping to create the future you want.
Yeah. How about you?
Get curious, not judgmental. That's one of my favorite mantras. We shortcut to judgmental often completely unaware. We just do it. So becoming curious, asking why, trying to get to the heart of where that behavior that you're witnessing is coming from. Because as I said at the beginning, awareness creates choice. Choice enables change.
Beautiful. Elizabeth Cipolla, Amanda Kochirka. Verdera. Oh my gosh.
We've given you a run for your money today.
Yeah, you really have. Thank you, ladies, so much. Again, how to get a hold of you?
Yes, our website is Verdera Rise. That's VERDERA rise.com.
Fantastic.
That's the easiest way to find us.
You got it here. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Joel.